Welcome to this Q3 report presentation by technology-enabled care company Careium. After the presentation, there will be a Q&A with equity analysts, and investors can ask their questions in the live chat. By that, let me introduce to you newly appointed CEO Peter Heuman and CFO David Granath. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By that, please go ahead with your presentation and I'll be back for the Q&A.
Thank you, Matthias, and great to be here. And again, welcome everyone who's listening. So I am Peter Heuman, the fairly recently appointed interim CEO. I started here 20th of August, and so you can all understand that I have not been here for much more than a month during this quarter three. So I'm not going to take any credits for what I believe seems like a solid report from Careium. And if we start with some highlights, you can see and have seen in the report that the Careium is providing a higher net sales, higher gross margin, an increased profitability. Adjusted for the one-offs, it's actually, I think, up to 14%. And also a much better cash flow during the third quarter. So the sales grow with 6%, but if we take into account the headwinds from the currency, we grow almost 10% in Careium. And the cash flow went to over 14 million compared to 3 million last year. And yes, I don't know if it's a highlight, but the change of CEO has happened and we are here. So with that, what we're going to do now is that I will talk a little bit about the sales and gross margin. After that, I'm going to spend a little bit of time related to how we are doing with sales in our different markets that the company normally reports on. When I have done that, I'm going to hand over to David, and he's going to guide you through a little bit more details related to the profitability and to the improved cash flow. So with that, and like I said, Careium had a great quarter three with almost 215 million revenue. That means 6% up, and with the adjusted for the headwind of currency, almost 10% up. Then if we look into the different product mix that the company normally reports on, it's related to services revenues and product revenues. If we start with the most simple version, it's the product sales where we had some good momentum in the third quarter. It's up 70 over almost 80%, and it's mainly driven by our UK and German market. If we then look at the services sales, it might look at the first glance like we are going down a little bit. This has to do with the historic accounting principles. Let me see if I can put that in a good perspective. So the quarter three sales versus last year, you can consider that last year we had leasing revenues of 24 million. This year, only 2 million. The difference is what you see on the slide here, the 20 million. But so an underlying business is healthy and doing pretty good, and I'm going to show you that on the next slide. But this product mix together showed that also provided a somewhat increased gross margin. So all in all, a good top line, I would say, and a good mix and good underlying business. So with that, I'm going to go into some of the markets, and we're going to start with some of the largest markets we have, and that will be the Nordic region and the UK region. So like you heard me say, Nordic looks like it's going down a little bit, and that has to do with the accounting principles. But if you look at the underlying, so to speak, the adjusted, and how the actual operation is doing, the Nordics is actually growing as well. Gross margin has been somewhat impacted during the quarter, but I would say that's mainly due to some recently won contracts that we are building up to make sure we can deliver for new customers in Norway. So all in all, the underlying business in the Nordic is doing good. If you look at the UK, we have had a great quarter, increasing 70% in sales. Services is a little bit down, but they have mitigated that with a great momentum in the product section. Gross margin then is just somewhat higher than before, but it has been a strong quarter for United Kingdom. If I move on, and this is, as you can see on the graphs, the major markets for Careium. If we go to some of the smaller markets, we can start with the Netherlands, that according to my initial analysis seems to be a very stable market for Careium. It's a slight increase in sales. Netherlands is holding, it's mainly services. They are holding a very good gross margin compared to some other markets. And it's a stable market for Careium. Even though the Netherlands, I would say, in my first glance and by also having lived there, I would say that Netherlands is also a rather complex market. So it's good to see that they are demonstrating this kind of stability. Then if we go to some of the smaller markets, or at least newer markets for Careium, we have had where we are mainly selling products. The teams there, particularly in Germany, have demonstrated a great momentum in product sales. And they are also doing it for having mainly a product-related sales. I think they are also generating very decent gross margins. So all in all markets some markets are having a very good momentum. We have Netherlands on a stable platform, and the larger markets are also on the stable or positive from a revenue generating perspective. So with that, I think I will hand over to David, and he's going to guide you a little bit more on the improved profitability and cash flow. So with that, David.
Thank you, Peter. Now an update on the profitability for the quarter. EBITDA amounted to 32 million compared to 34 for the same period last year, giving an EBITDA margin of 14.9% compared to 17% last year. EBIT was 14 million in the third quarter compared to 17 million last year, reaching an EBIT margin of 6.7%. Adjusting for one-offs related to changes in management during the quarter, both EBIT and EBITDA increased for the quarter. And with that, we're moving on to cash flow. I'm happy to see that cash flow from operating activities amounted to 35 million in the third quarter compared to 14 for the same period in 2024. Free cash flow was 14 million, as Peter said before, driven by solid operating profit and improved working capital. Investments in tangible fixed assets increased with 9 million, as less contracts were classified as financial lease. Cash at the end of the period was 28 million, and we utilized less of our credit facility compared to last year. Net debt was 183 million, an increase compared to last year, as the lower utilization of our credit facility is offset by increased lease liabilities. As I've said before, we are well financed with sufficient cash to facilitate further investments. And with that, I hand over to Peter for summary and conclusions.
Yeah, thank you, David. So we are already at the summary. And no, I think we should not make this complicated. I think the report speaks pretty much for itself. But I think it's good, and it demonstrates a solid momentum into the second half of 2025. The growth of adjusted for currency of almost 10%. We have an underlying growth in almost all markets. It's an increased EBIT, an EBITDA level, if we adjust for the one-offs, and very much improved cash flow. I think that's the main positives that we should take away from this report. Have there been any challenges during quarter three? Yeah, I have not been part of, like I said, too long of the quarter three, but I know that the company has been doing a great job and investing for new contracts, for example, in Norway. Then I'm not gonna dwell on this with the financial leasing. I think I want to say that, you know, and some of you will know that from 1st of January 2026, we are not gonna carry a lot of these forward anyway, so it's gonna be way easier to measure and follow our performance. So what are our priorities ahead? I think for me stepping in here, it's actually just to make sure that we maintain current positive momentum. So that's what I'm of course going to do everything I can to make sure that we continue with towards the end of the year here. We have announced before I even started some new won contracts in important ones in Norway, for example. And I think it's great to see and come in here and start to realize that now the company is going to go live with those contracts. So I think that's a very good thing, and we're going to focus on making a success out of it. I will continue my analysis that I have started, and it actually has to do because I think, like I said, this is a solid report, and there might still be things we can do due to the history of this company, fragmented in Europe with many different companies. I think we can unlock potentially more potential out of this company, and that's what I'm very focused on. So all in all, a strong, solid report, and we're going to try to maintain this momentum in towards the end of the year. So with that, I think we can open up for Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Peter and David, for that presentation. And we have two equity analysts in the call for this Q&A. And first out is Alice Bear of ABG Sundal Collier. Please go ahead with your questions, Alice.
Hi, good morning, and thank you, Peter and David, for having me. So firstly, just starting off, Peter, you stated in your comment that you're starting to identify actions that will strengthen your customer focus, organization, and market position. Could you elaborate on that, and have you found any examples that you could share with us?
Yeah, thank you, Alice. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit careful with stating too much this early into the job. I think in general what I mean is, and allude to, is what I also shortly mentioned. In my view, you know, if I try to put it in perspective, to me, Careium is a fairly young company. It was spun out of another company, and that's not more than 4 years ago. It's built up by several company acquisitions, and I'm pretty sure that there are steps in how we can find, you know, synergies, unify as a one Careium, and run this in a very customer-oriented way with the offers in all the different markets. So I think around there is where my analysis is going, in what steps and with what priority and what benefits can we, through what actions, can we actually improve even further.
Okay, great. And then moving on, the gross margin has been strong all year, really. And we've spoken a bit about this before, but it would be great if you could just shed some light on how much of that improvement is due to maybe product mix or timing, and how much can be extrapolated going forward.
I think maybe I should let David talk about that.
I mean, we continue to do work on our kind of product cost, so the boom cost, and that we will continue to do all the time. Then, as you can see on our regions, I would say that is a big mix in the different offerings between the regions. So I would say it's partly due to regional mix in this quarter, and then partly due to continuous improvements that we will, you know, always continue to do.
Okay, thank you. And then on the guidance, you reiterated your guidance, and H2 start off on a good note, just like you guided for. However, Q4 presents much tougher sales comps than Q3 did. So really what I'm looking for is, what are your thoughts on growth opportunities in the upcoming quarter and being able to reach increased profitability for the year?
Should I do? I mean, of course, I mean, as we said, since the start of the year, we expected a softer H1 and a stronger H2. Going into Q3, I see positive business momentum, and as we said, we still believe that we can reach our guided targets.
Okay, thank you. And then more on the market, do you think we have seen or will see any positive effects from the ADA framework being pushed forward? What I'm looking for is there pent-up demand from customers who were awaiting the ADA framework?
So that's a good question, I think, Alice. And you know, I will be also here a little bit careful since I haven't been here, and I probably don't have all the perspectives on this particular topic. But I look at it like this with the information I have. You know, we have been a provider here, so I think since 2019, when the previous procurement process was set up. I think there were several actors who was approved to provide under the current contract, but there's only Careium and one other company who's actually there delivering nowadays. If ADA, by some reason, needs a little bit more time to make sure they can get this procurement process running the way they want, you know, that doesn't have to be a bad thing for Careium. We are a trusted supplier on this contract, so if it takes a little bit more time, that's not going to hurt us. I also think in general, since Careium and one other company out of the 4 or 5 who was approved are in here delivering, I think the company in general is in a good position.
All right, great, thank you. And then maybe a more detailed question, but UK product sales have been very strong, but service sales have been down 2 quarters in a row there. Could you talk to us a bit about the UK service market?
Yeah. Or do you want to say something, David, or should I?
No. Start you and I can...
No, but I will be, I will say careful in every, but it's just with a little bit of respect, so I don't make any promises here now. I think it's a good question again, Alex, as you see from the slide there. I know that there has been a little bit of a few contracts before, maybe even this quarter. I know there's a lot of activities going on, and hopefully we're going to see that trend that you say for 2 quarters, that could shift. I think the team in UK have done a fantastic job mitigating, being aware of that with increased focus on the product section. So the combination is what we see in the report. But maybe David want to say or has more history than I have, and then it's just to add in here, David.
Yeah, no, and I agree with your comment. And just to add to that, we have a focus on the service sales and new contracts in the UK. And as you know, these takes a long time to start to implement and start to deliver on. We did lose a bigger one in the spring, and of course it takes a little bit of time to mitigate that in full. But there are good actions and good progress.
Perfect, great. Just one last question for me then that's more forward-looking maybe. Are there any news on the A2D transition in the UK or the close down of 2G in Sweden?
I would say not that... No new news, but that depends on what you know.
The latest we're working on is the A2D close in January 2027 in the UK. And in Sweden, I think it's end of year. I think it's Telia, I think, that is going to remain open. Yeah.
Okay, great. That was all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice Beer of ABG Sundal Collier. And we move over to Fredrik Reuterhäll at the bank SEB. Please go ahead with your questions, Fredrik.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
We do.
Yes.
Good. Thanks for the presentation. Alice touched up on some of my questions, but I have some more. I want to start off with the free cash flow that was strong in the quarter. And can you talk more about your capital allocation strategy and then efficiency in the working capital for 2026? And do you see the free cash flow to improve next year? I think you did like 18 million for the full year 2024.
I mean, we are continuing both in kind of the transparency towards the external market on how to visualize this. But I mean, we are working a lot on this in all areas, I would say. I would say we're working hard with the accounts receivables that I think are perhaps that needs closer monitoring. And then the financial lease again impacts a lot on the free cash flow as well for this quarter. But again, I mean, we're working with all aspects of working capital, of course, as we do with the operating profit and the rest of the P&L.
Okay, and what do you think about the full year? Would you match the last year or?
Oh, the free cash flow. I mean, as we said before, we are iterating our guidance. So yes, we think we will reach a free cash flow above last year.
Good. And then can you give some more color on the performance in Germany? I mean, was it one large customer or was it more broad demand pushing sales there?
No, there has been from no, it's a little bit broader. It's not one customer. So yeah, the short answer is, Fredrik, that it's broader. I think they have started to build up the team. It has started off with Careium as one of the really bridgeheads, or what we wrote there in the report, and I think they have started to build up a little bit more competences locally, started to spread their wings a little bit and broaden their customer base. So that has started to generate this positive momentum, and they have to kind of start off with the products, since we don't have the whole service operation in those early stage markets.
So that sounds pretty promising going forward for the German market then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. And then Gloucestershire started 9th of September, as I recall it. So I guess it's a relatively small impact on the UK performance this quarter. And can we expect full revenue contribution in Q4 there?
I mean, it's one of the contracts that I mentioned that we have won, and it's a ramp up. I would say it's always a ramp up phase of contracts, but impact will start now in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and then moving on to the big Norwegian order, and I understand it started in October, so it's no impact on this quarter, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. And can you remind me about the split between the product and sales on this order?
On the Norwegian contract?
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't have it on top of my head.
I don't know if how the company exactly report on specific customer contracts, the splits or not, or if it's per country. So I shouldn't say too much about that at this early stage.
Yeah. And then I'm curious, in Q3 2024, a year ago, you established a commercial business in Spain. And now after 1 year after the launch, did it meet your expectations? And what kind of growth do you expect for the next 12 months there? I didn't see anything about Spain in this report.
I think that's a good observation, Fredrik. In my view, at this fairly early stage, what Careium historically has done mainly is to buy a technology and competence in Spain for important parts of the overall proposition of Careium. I cannot relate to if you have seen promises of growth from a revenue perspective in that particular country. To me, it was a main driver has been to bring on to the company these both technical and technical competence, both in terms of actual technology, but then also competences that we can leverage then all across Europe. That is my initial view of the activity that has historically taken place in Spain.
Okay.
And I think to add to that, I mean, we have one recruit in Spain that is working on the sales. That's the only investment we have. We're not guiding on any future potential for Spain, but it's a big market and it needs time, and we need to look into how we should allocate our investments going forward.
Okay, fair enough. And then also in the same report, you wrote about the launch of the eye care center, and you mentioned in the report that you wanted to migrate all of the Swedish users within 2 years and then handle all of Careium's users on this platform. And this migration would generate yearly savings of 10 million SEK. And I just want to ask you, how large part of these users has been migrated now after 1 year, and are you up to speed on the savings there?
Fredrik, very good question again, and we are referring to external communication long before my time. Can we do like this, Fredrik? During quarter 4, when we present there, I think it's an excellent question. Can I come back to you there? There are activities ongoing, I can tell you. but I would just like to get a little bit more time, and then gonna try to really create a good clarity for all of you related to this important topic.
Of course, no problem. Okay, then I have one question regarding the direct-to-consumer market in specifically UK and the Netherlands. I mean, do you see that you're taking market share there, or do you see higher competition increasing?
You have a lot of good questions, Fredrik.
Of course, I've been reading.
No, but let me, I started my career in Kinnevik in the consumer business, so it's close to my heart. So I have been starting the reviews of our B2C kind of offerings. We have these activities mainly in the Netherlands and, to your point, in UK. I think, to be very transparent, there are things we can do better, maybe can bring some more pure B2C competences. I see that as a great potential. But there are activities we need to do to be able to accelerate. But it is there, it's rather stable, and I think that could be a great foundation to start from.
Yeah, sounds good. That was all of my questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fredrik at SEB, for your questions. And there are some questions from investors in the live chat, and I have a few questions myself. But let's start off with the most common question from 3 different investors related to a question that you recently kind of answered to, but I will raise it anyway. Help me or us understand how you can retain forecast on profitability. This means that EBIT will increase by more than 17 million in Q4 versus last year. How is this possible?
Again, I mean, we see a strong business momentum, and we reiterate our guidance for the full year.
Thank you. And when it comes to markets, one thing that has been affecting your possibilities for better or for worse is authorities or political macro decisions in regulation. Is there any known possible changes in your major markets upcoming?
I'm not sure exactly what the...
Kind of like with 2G,
but I was going to say, if it's mainly, I mean, all the European countries are in different stages related to their telecom network and regulations of what kind of infrastructure should be in place or how long they should be there. Yeah, and there's a lot of differences in Europe in maturity and where they are in the process. I think that's something that we have teams who have good control over. We are aware of where each and every country is in that process. I would say those are the main characteristics. I mean, I would say refer to those are the most important aspects that I'm aware of so far.
Thank you. And when it comes to, let's say, major trends or mega trends, the digitalization is getting more and more mature. Elderly people are more used to digital equipment. How does these trends work for you? How would you describe it?
No, but I think it's on a very general view now, and with respect for my time in the company, but I see this, if we say digitalization, technology evolutions, AI, all these aspects, there are several aspects of this where Careium has the potential to tap into. It might require that we develop faster, etc., but we should also, I see that as, we need to see it as possibilities, nothing else.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Any comments on the competitive landscape?
No, but if I should provide any initial view on that, I would say it seems to me in a rather traditional telecare industry, there are some larger players in Europe. Careium is one of them. There's a handful. I think another trend that I have seen now when I've been out in our different markets, and back to your previous question, you start to see smaller companies that actually can build on a totally new technology. They try to tap in one way or the other, but it's a rather complex, service, product, managed service kind of business we're in. But this is what I mean. We have to be an active supplier and a company who actually looks at this and how we can tap into this. So, yeah, it's a good mix of some traditional companies and also some new that are utilizing the new technologies. But I think Careium is fairly well positioned if we tap in there in the right way.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if you can answer this at this point, but there's a question for you, Peter. How do you see Careium growing long-term, products or services?
No, you know what? No, I'm not going to have a view on that. But hopefully, when I have been a little bit longer in the company and we have closed 2025, perhaps I can have a more clear view, and I've been there for a little bit longer.
And there's another question on a subject we brought up by the SEB equity analyst, and that how is the development in Spain doing?
But a little bit, like I said, I think primarily where I am in my analysis of the company, I see that we have both a technology component in there that's important for Careium and all markets, and I see that there are competences that we are adding into Careium. That's how I see it. More than, currently Careium or historically has not generated revenue in there, and I'm not even aware of full market plans, go-to-market activities. But we have a strong tech team. They are important for all our markets. I think that's where I have to start with it.
Okay, thank you. And there are no more questions in the live chat, so let me wrap this up by asking you, Peter, how has your first month with Careium been?
No, but it's been awesome. It's been, and when you can sit behind such a solid report like today and step into a company, I try to be very focused on of course, spending time with the CFO for all the data, but maybe even more importantly, I have been in most of our countries so far. I have met several customers. I met our local organizations. So I start to get from many different perspectives. So I think, like I said, there is a great foundation in here. It is a fairly young company, and it's built by historic acquisitions. But having worked both with startups or in large corporates, I think there are ways here how we can utilize this and get even more potential out of Careium. And that's what I'm very focused on in my analysis. How are we going to do that? Yeah, I think that it's been great.
And what is your strategy for acquisitions going forward?
You have seen I have seen the communication historically. I think we are together with the board and with me stepping in here. I need to come back on that question. After the Q4, I think that will be the best way of communicating if something is changing or not. Yeah.
Okay, that sums it up. I want to address the viewers and investors that has been watching and ask their questions. And thank you so much, Peter and David, for all your answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.